Hello everyone, this is Xali speaking and I'd like to recap what the Elegance is. But first, here Ranger interrupts my rezzing, so I stand here looking like an idiot and attacking a guard instead of rezzing through. Then a guard does exactly that. Back to the point. Elegance was designed as a staff interrupt build. It both immobilizes enemies on interrupt and generates 5 mites per interrupt and other boons. But instead of loading staff, this time I've tried Greatsword. Unless stated otherwise, in the whole video I don't use condition removal at all. The final form of the build has the Mender's Purity instead of Glamour Recharge. So, why Mantra of Destruction of all things? Slowing down this clip. If enemy does not know what I am, what type of build I am, the Mantra of Destruction allows me to have 2 on-demand interrupts. An interrupt makes it so that enemy is immobilized by 3 seconds. On top of that, I get mites and possibly fury and some other boons. The enemy mesmer here tried to evacuate, but it was impossible because I had the mantra ready, and when the mantra expires I am able to use diversion shatter to immobilize and break mass invis. So if enemy panics, I will win. On top of that, 3 interrupts gave me a lot of mites, so look at my damage. This is at the core of Elegance build. So let's see what happens when everything goes right. Here, enemies have about 6 people, but some are underleveled. I-Wave is used to create mites and push them into one spot. Mantra is used to generate even more mites, so I'm at 25 mites. And now I am able to nuke them. Then using a curtain to add to the confusion and chaos. But neither me nor Gw2 are really able to use this situation efficiently. On top of that, we've got quite a lot of crowd control over there. If you had one heavy with stability, it would be all over the fight at this point. With the amount of damage flying around, we are only able to evacuate. And this is why I use Portal. Note I can range my opponents again. When the ranger comes close enough to kill me, I am able to pot back towards the tower and enter it. What we gained from this small skirmish is understanding what enemies are and how squishy they are. This means we are able to defeat them. So a target was selected, a Glacial Elementalist with Assaulter title. He was the most likely to panic. Note the blink cooldown. I am able to blink somewhere, so I decided to attack. And mass invis, so they don't know. Now, mantra to stop rezzing. This is how I was able to finish stomping. I could have played in such a risky way because I know they are not using crowd controls, because if they were, I wouldn't be able to assault the tower so easily. That is why I always have a portal ready in case it goes wrong. Now, an underleveled is rezzing a killed player. Repeating the pattern, mantra, to interrupt and immobilize so he can't dodge. And with new mites I am able to nuke that place. And there's one more person downed. And of course they will want to rezz the downed player. So I put the curtain to interrupt resurrecting people again and immobilize them. And exactly after this, Gw2 caught them in Entangle. From my point of view, totally accidental, but looked very pro. So here, I was trying to blink to the enemy to stomp him because he's immobilized, and I got a Moa treatment. Usually I say that Moa is a useless elite skill because it doesn't change the situation really, but as we lost 50% of our firepower, it kind of changed the situation this time. In the meantime, Gw2 stomped one enemy, I DPS'd down second enemy and placed an escape portal in case I need it. Seems this actually proves that Moa is useless as an elite skill. I mean, it changed nothing. So back to the fight. Mesmer and Ranger. If 2 are alive, it means there were 5 in the beginning, not 6. Now, this fight is when everything goes right. This is by no means every fight looks like this. You need to be lucky, have enemies without stability, without heavy condition pressure, and without heavy crowd control. And operate on open terrain. Whenever one of those parameters is not met, something goes terribly wrong. For example, this fight. Here, a lot of things go very wrong. Enemies at the gate might not be very numerous, but they have class composition such that we cannot really make a raid at them. Crowd control and condis would kill us. So we decided to attack a kata spot where there is another team of Drakars, but they had a condi thief, and not only we didn't manage to down them, but we burned the defensive skills and Gw2 got killed. 2 of us in the Lord, 3 total in the tower, and enemies at the Lord. So I curtain pull to generate as many mites as I can and unleashed hell in the Lord's room. Combination of damage from me and the thief was enough to down one engineer and to force them outside. We have exhausted the shared hit point currency which I was talking about in the earlier video, and time is on our side in this fight. With Sol we have managed to stomp an engineer. as enemies started trickling into the Lord's room, we retreated onto the bridge, and seeing the projectiles, I placed a curtain. But, woe is me, I haven't noticed that the ranger is in my back. So I got backstabbed by rapid fire from a ranger. On reflect mesmer. I totally deserved to die at that point. Fortunately, idiots are usually lucky, so I got rallied by a random enemy. At that point, Monster and Drew managed to reinforce the tower. So the best thing I could have done with low amount of hit points was to reduce enemies' numbers in the tower. So instead of engaging, I used the curtain to push them back from the ramp up on the ground. And if you look at our party's hit points, I am the one in the worst shape. Courtesy of a soul who played a guardian at this point. A fight split into a set of small localized fights, and this is the format we like the most. And more or less at this point the fight has already been won. Sure, they were still trickling into the tower, but we were able to kill them one by one. So let me change the clip. This one shows all the weaknesses of Greatsword Elegance. It strongly relies on range control, and well, on not getting conditions. This means that Elegance is fundamentally a very offensive build. Note in both clips where I won, I was attacking. If we are defending, Elegance needs to rely on very low defenses, and this is where it starts to suck. Don't get me wrong, Immobilize is a defense. This means that if I get a thief with Immobilize, I am able to trample him with damage. But I can't really stomp properly outside of Distortion, and blinds make Greatsword quite useless. There is where Portal comes into play to control range, unless, of course, I have it off cooldown. This means that if Elegance is not focused by an enemy which can control the range better than I do, for example good, stealthy shatter mesmer, or a good thief, it is a horrible monster to face in terms of control with all the immobilizes and might generation. But if I cannot drop an enemy off me, I will be pretty useless. On top of that, Elegance has very low passive defenses. And unlike Chaos Storm, there is no way to actually create a defensive field of some kind. So every act of rezzing or stomping without distortion is extremely dangerous. Those are the trade-offs. Every build has some, and whatever you play you need to know that something will counter you and you will do something which no other build will be able to. Then Portal comes into play as your oh dear button to save you from a bad decision. Okay, last clip to show that sometimes we win because of things out of our control. So, here we had a thief, we have killed him off screen, and this seemed to be a 2 versus million fight. On the top right corner of the screen you see Gw2, a Asura mesmer, the legendary mesmer of Gunnar's Hold. And because he's a small Asura, we didn't ever notice him. So, Mantra on cooldown, everything on cooldown, and Necromancer eats me up. I tried to evacuate, got chilled, immobilized, everything evil, and when you take my mobility, I am downed. Fortunately, in the fight like this with NPCs around, Greatsword is bound to tag absolutely everything, so I am valid. What happens next? We move Theater of War outside the sentry area. But we don't know about Gw2. He stayed there. This actually split enemy forces. 2 players stayed on him. What's very important, the scary control Necromancer is not here, so I am able to move freely, and you see the results. Although I am not really able to stomp down the Elementalist, we can focus fire him with Drew and we are able to kill him using DPS. So, Distortion to cover the pew pew, Mantra to push Burr away from me, and new target selection, an under-leveled ranger, glassy one, pew pew. In the meantime, interrupt on rapid fire to generate more mites and to stop enemy attacking. I shouldn't be able to stomp this one simply because I don't have Distortion or anything else ready, but he was low on hit points and he made a mistake. In the meantime, Drew is having a heroic fight with the scary Necromancer, and the ranger which is alive went onto him too. Gw2 is fighting 2 enemies and still alive. He's doing it completely off screen, but thanks to him we can still fight. Iwave managed to immobilize them so they can't come stomp, which gives me some breathing room for res, but not enough, so I have to blink away after resing. Poor Drew remained alone on the battlefield, but I am able to return to him. Initially I selected Ranger as a target, but after a second of thought I changed it. One of the major weaknesses of a Necromancer is vulnerability to control, and I am a control mesmer. And exactly at this moment Gw2 died. He was facing at least 2 enemies, if not more, but he bought us time to defeat those 2 enemies we are having right now. To be honest, before rewatching we didn't even know he was there. When 2 enemies who killed Gw2 came to us, we were able to defeat them. But if we fought all of them in the same time, if we didn't split the fight onto 2 areas, if Gw2 didn't help us, this video would have ended in us dying. I like this particular video because it shows several things. 1. How changing the theater of the fight, splitting enemies, is beneficial. 2. Divide and conquer, and moving away from each other. 3. It shows both strengths and weaknesses of all our setups. And 4. It shows that very often there are people we don't see, thanks to whom we can look awesome. And with this optimistic thought, thank you very much for watching. Gw2 out.